State.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Terrence Williams, and I'll be one of your facilitators.
My name is Cedric McGee, NAACP treasurer. I'll be your other facilitator.
I'm back to y'all.
You're fine. I'm gonna be keeping your time.
How much time do we have? You have 2 minutes per question or comments. So that gives everybody else a chance to make comments. So I guess the first question is, what issues, problems, questions do you have with the proposed closing? I think you've already started.
Yeah.
All of it.
So they give us the ratios for the administrators to the buildings, but what is the student teacher ratio in the classrooms? Because I know it said we're talking about being under capacity, but we're talking about low performancing. So I'm wondering like what the ratio is for students and teachers on average in these buildings as well.
And what would be, right then?
We'll have to get back with you on some of these questions, if it's okay.
They have on the back of the handout, I guess it says enrollment numbers by building.
Yeah, I saw that. I want to know what's
Doesn't have
happening with the
teachers,
teachers
so-
and the students in the classrooms, because that affects performance.
Well, I know in some classrooms, I know, at Belmont, they had almost something like 32 students, 34 students in a classroom, which is way
I
too
walked
many.
into them.
Is that an average?
Excuse me? I would say the average is about 28.
That's still good.
Oh, yeah.
That's about,
They were about 35 in the
Okay.
classroom at Thurgood.
Mhm.
And that model's wrong. You gotta go back to 1999, look at when we were going to Chicago to Whitney Young, we were looking at what's called small learning communities. I was part of that. And so the small learning communities, they were looking to have 25 kids in the classroom. So the buildings were built to hold, and including this building, were built to hold about 600 plus students. Thurgood Marshall was probably, attendance is probably about 800. And I'm sure that's reflective of across the district. So when you walk into some of these classrooms, you're looking, and he teaches, he knows, you're looking at 30, 40 students in your classroom, and now you're talking about closing 8 schools.
Right.
So where the kids gonna go?
Exactly, that's my question.
Well, if they bust them out, then that money goes with them.
You're smart.
Exactly.
You're smart.
So you have to
So
shrink.
you're taking
and-
another resource out of the community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And another question, has there been any discussion about the consolidation of these schools rather than closing all 8?
That's another possibility too, because I thought the same thing. Rather than close, I think he's writing them down over there. Rather than us close up 8, maybe it might just be 4 schools,
Yeah.
and then consolidate the other ones. But we'll need to be closing up no 8 schools
No.
on the west side of that. No, we don't.
So
I
one
want-
of the words you said was consolidation. Consolidation.
I can scribe for you.
Yeah, it doesn't look like this was working too well.
That's a dry eraser.
That's a dry marker.
What
Yeah.
the
Oh, that's
shit?
So alrighty, so I heard consolidation.
So the conversation that was told to me, and I guess what the task force is supposed to be working on, is that well, it's been mentioned to use these spaces like as community space as well, so shared space. If there's a community resource in some of these particular schools where there's low attendance, or low enrollment, I should say, then looking at how different community organizations that provide resources can be housed in these particular buildings. Now, that was just kind of thrown out there by one of the board members, and I guess this is what the task force is supposed to figure out. I can't think of her name, but the lawyer for the district, we asked about.
Jillian Bradshaw.
Uh,
Jillian Bradshaw.
Yes, so we can't, there's an issue about like leasing out the space and that type, like legally the space cannot be leased out.
No, after 2 years of being vacant, they basically get given away at fire sale prices to whoever wants them.
That was where I wanted, that's a
Yeah.
good segue. Is, okay, so you got 8 schools, you close 4, we consolidate. But you got an uprising in charter schools in your community. But you gotta go back a little further than that. You remember we levied this week, we had a levy and we got money for these schools, right? So who's paying the levy taxes on this, right? So we are, so you're gonna sell the 4 schools penny on the dollars, and then we're gonna be stuck paying for the schools
Yes.
and somebody else will own the building. Where they do that at?
Right.
Exactly.
That's the
But-
charter people
and
pushing
that's the
this
charter.
thing. And the reality is this task force has people on it that are charter people.
Exactly.
And it has Dr. Lastly, who's getting tax dollars from issue 9 to pull kids out of Dayton Public Schools to go to whatever private business they want. So the first problem is that the task force is illegitimate and is really questionable about why these people that are chosen are on it. Because some of them are just construction people and architecture people who made money the first time around. Secondly, you know, what I think the real question is why did so many people leave the district in the last few years? And I think we can blame that 100% on an incompetent board, an incompetent superintendent. And when you take a look at things like people don't feel safe in the schools, and they're still not addressing it, and that's why people are moving their kids to other schools. When you have, Residence Park was solidly, you know, it dropped by half after the stabbing. And there was no, you know, we'll put up some fence and we'll change our security cameras, but that's not a solution. The other question is, how many students did you lose when you switched at the last minute to the middle schools without community input? That was at the end of 2016. Then in 2017, we switched out of nowhere to 4 bell times, which makes it hard for some parents to coordinate. Nobody's looked at the factors that have caused them to lose students. Besides the fact that we've also, I mean, you don't hear bad things about DECA, and DECA's grown hand over fist, and that's run by the Fordham Foundation, which is the charter people, and they're saying, look at us, we're great. But you got it.
You could also add busing to that also, because a lot of kids are being left outside, not getting transported to school.
Well,
Parents get
right.
frustrated, taking my child out.
Well, they were still taking them out and putting them in a charter school or putting them in homeschool, but either or, they were still having the same bus problems, unless they were driving them themselves.
Absolutely.
But the transportation issues were absolutely incompetent. And basically, you know, since all this, we've also lost about 20% turnover in the district. I can't tell you a business that's gonna be successful with 20% turnover, and they've lost so much talent, so many teachers who have been here for the long haul. And the real question is why are these people still on the school board, and what, you know, who picked Lolly? I mean, she didn't come through any kind of selection process. She was hired by Rhonda Core, who we fired for being incompetent. So you've got yet another question. Right now is the time to go and do a national search for a new superintendent if that's the case.
Yeah.
Not 3 months later, not 4 months later.
You went over
Sure.
2 minutes.
You went over your time.
I have a question.
Sure.
On the task force, how, are there parents on the task force? Or
There
are they
are
just
no parents on the task force. There are the only people that are on the task force that are connected to the district at all are Mr. Davis, who is a former educator, and David Romick, who is the DEA chief. That is it.
No parents?
No parents. All of the rest of the, and no taxpayers. Half the people don't even live in the district.
So I've written some things in green, which are obviously issues and problems.
The vouchers, somebody had mentioned the vouchers, that is a big issue, but if you have so many problems in the DPS district and your schools that your children attend, our first and foremost priority are our children. We want a good district, but it is our children. And if we can put our children in a better district due to the schools that they're in are not doing well, and they're like, hey, here's a voucher, take this, and you can go to Chaminade, or you can go here or there, then those students are gonna go there. I personally am here as a DPS parent as a whole, but I am not directly affected. My child goes to Stivers, and that's not one of the issues with the school course, that's not going anywhere. But, I mean, I'm still in the community, and I care about the community. But, I mean, I was very upset when I was at Lowe's, and I took off from Lowe's Elementary, and the next year, had I stayed one more year, my family would have received a voucher to go to Chaminade Julienne or one of the other ones, because they had such a bad grade. So, I mean, you can't blame the parents on that voucher. I know that is one of the issues of why some of the students leave the area, but you can't blame it because
You
that
fix-
is our foremost.
You fix the school and there's no more voucher.
That's right.
the issue.
But it's not fixed yet, so that is
So
one
now-
reason
so now,
why
for-
they're
For a
leaving.
minute here,
That's us.
I've listed the green problems, issues. So now I'm gonna ask, with this blue marker, what are some alternatives?
To the problem.
Yes.
To some of these issues you just
Some
discussed.
of these
Well,
other-
The first thing,
We have a lot of issues, but they're not being addressed from an administrator, from a district, to keep our kids safe, to make to build trust. Everything that's happening is basically disconnecting the community from anything that's happening with the school districts, the plans for the school district, how we work together as a community. The parent voice is not being, heard whatsoever, so we don't even know why parents are leaving the district, and nobody's even asking, right? So if you're not asking those questions, how can you even implement a plan? They don't wanna hear from us. And like you said, a parent being that my child is my priority, and this is the easiest way that I can make sure my child has their education.
Right.
This is what I'm gonna do, but we need to make sure that the district is providing everything that they're supposed to. If they wanna get these numbers, if they want to get their enrollment, they wanna get the test scores, we have to work together as a community. We have these CECs, Community Engagement Councils, which are supposed to consist of parents that are in each building. Administrators are supposed to be evaluated on the effectiveness of these CECs, and that's not
But
happening
it
across the
doesn't,
board
I don't know
consistently.
how many parents we have, but I was the PTA president for many years. And I went and attended the downtown meetings and all that stuff, and I saw small groups of parents. I'm talking a good turnout would be 10 to 15 parents. How many parents are in this district?
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous. Why do you think that our voices aren't being heard? They don't
So
need to
where
hear
are
our
we?
voices because we don't turn out.
So that's what I'm hearing.
So we
And
don't-
We
parents
don't
are not more
turn
active
out. We are
participating
so
in these
small.
issues.
We're so small compared to the children that we
That's what I hear a
have
lot.
in the district.
And then I have to be
It's-
confused
it's
because
sad.
we're taking our kids out because the district's not doing anything, but we're not showing up to tell the district what we want.
That's
But
right.
what's the
That's
issue
right.
here? You can't have both and in this
The
situation.
parents have to be actively involved.
Yes.
You
Well,
can't
that's-
remove your kid and
that's-
just be mad because you wasn't heard, but you didn't show
know,
up.
when you
All
talk-
right, one at a time, one at a time,
when you
please.
talk about parent involvement, that's a long-term.
Yeah.
It is,
Okay.
it is.
Been
Every-
a long-term
Yeah, it's a
approach.
commitment.
Every organization that's in youth development,
Yes.
okay? But one of the real issues here is levies.
Mhm.
How in the world can they not listen to the
Stay
community
there.
when they require levies, which is really is illegal to run a school system by levies? That's already been proven. But it's unconstitutional, but nonetheless, if the community rallies together and say, look, you better listen to us or you're not gonna get another levy, I guarantee you, there'll be some
Yeah,
change.
because we voted in levies.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, sort of.
Sort of, yeah, sort of.
Yeah, because if you look at the library, when they looked at that situation and you can look at the minority contract and over there, the procurement process on that, and then you can also look and see that, they didn't listen to us because when they looked at the voter outcome, we didn't vote.
Right.
Thank you.
How about that?
And that's what I'm saying, yeah.
So going back to, but your point is right.
Yeah.
Well, we gotta get back on task, because we don't have a lot of time, and we're gonna run out of time. So it's an inside-outside job.
Yeah.
You can't expect for parental, I taught in the school district with Lane, so you can't expect for the parents of a district like this to come in and play superhero, when in fact, most of the parents in this district are low in proficiency themselves as it relates to
Correct.
academics. Let's start
Big
there.
issue.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the thing you would have to ask is, at what level do you want the parents to come in and help the school district academically? You gotta figure that part out first, that's the first part you gotta figure out. And then who's willing to do that, because this has to happen, okay?
Yeah.
And then you gotta look at the policing aspect of it. Okay, I hate to say it, but our school district, we're a tough school district, which means that we got a lot of behavioral problems.
Yeah.
right? And this stems from what goes on at the house, is men, there's no men in the house.
Right.
Okay, and so if there's no men in the house, then there's no men in the school district as well. The school district is ran by women. But if you had all police, our police force with all women, how would your city look, right? So that's the second problem, is how do you implement men back into the school district? When I was at Colonel White in 1999, there were 29 men in the building with Gary Griffin. In 99, they closed Patterson. They gave us 79 freshmen from, 600 freshmen and 79 from Patterson once they closed there. And we still were able to manage the school the school, because we had men in the building. And so we have to ask ourselves, how do we push all these men out of the building? We pushed all these men out of the district, and now we got catastrophes in the building because you got all these testosterone running around the school buildings, wrecking havoc, so you can't even teach in it. So we spend most of our time doing these kind of things.
And not teaching.
And so now we have to ask, does the community want to jump in that part? So you got low performing parents, you got no men in the building, and you see where it's going, right?
Yeah, sure.
So we got real issues that we have to solve on this level first, and it doesn't matter if they close the schools, it really doesn't. You know what really matters? It matters if we continue to close our hearts to what's happening in our communities, and I think that's what we're
How about
doing.
they cut the salary of some of the superintendent and president,
Superintendent.
and give some of that money to, some male?
We gave $300,000 away. Look at the math. You know we got one pot of money. Y'all know that. I don't have to tell you. Everybody here is smart. You got one pot of money. You got rid of one guy. You gave this guy over $200,000, and then you got rid of another girl. You gave her $100,000. That's $300,000 out of the pot. You should have went back and got the guy that you gave $200,000 away, because you ain't got time to go find a superintendent.
Mr. Malone is right there.
You should have went and got the guy, brought the guy back. You already paid the guy, put the guy in the seat and see if he can run the school district, because now you're without a leader at all. What are we doing? And what are we talking about?
We waste a lot of money. The district wastes and throws away a lot of money. We
It's
hire a
worse
lot
than
of
that.
consultants.
I can guarantee you a deal Bagheera pocketed money on the,
Oh, yeah.
on the bus
Oh, yeah.
deal
Oh, yeah.
and on the care source deal. I can guarantee it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So when you don't have any money to actually go into the buildings to provide direct services to the kids, then what?
Well, fiscal responsibility.
One of the things I looked at when we looked at some of these schools, some of these schools actually had some A's. They had some A's and B's. You know, one of the things they were talking about was making sure that these schools had, you know, some sort of show of growth or something like that.
A year of growth.
Yeah, when you look at them individually, absolutely.
So then I
But as a whole,
went on and I looked at
yeah.
World of Wonder, and they, I mean, I get that whole stabbing thing, but
Mhm.
it happens.
It's a quality school.
It's a quality school. It was a quality school way back when it was a charter, and then Dayton Public took over, and then it got a little messy.
Yeah.
It got actually a lot messy.
Well, and I would have to add, I'm sorry.
Well, hold on.
I'm sorry.
But they have an A on their, what is it?
Who?
Performance,
Which one?
Something, world proficiency, something.
World of Wonder?
World of Wonder,
Mhm.
okay? Now, I'm thinking, wow, is it because now they have smaller class sizes, and now these students can get more individualized attention? So now we're gonna close these schools, cause I think, some of these other schools also had some A's or B's or C's. We're gonna close these schools just because they have smaller class sizes, and these people are working well with these children, because it's not economically, once again, we're going back to that business model. We're not a business, we just need to service the children. That's what we need to do, that's what needs to happen. So now we've got kids, cause I've got 26 in my classroom, it's not a big to-do, except for I'm the only one in there, and it's kindergarten. Right.
Uh-oh.
So,
Terrible.
and I have one child in a walker, and, you know, he sometimes needs help in that bathroom area. It happens, you know, you work your class the way you gotta work it. That's not the point. The point is, if we have schools that are doing well, because they have smaller class sizes, why are we honoring them? Why are we throwing them away? Why are we saying, no, I'm sorry, you have to close, and then we have to push you guys into other schools so that we can get these class sizes up. Let's have 26 kindergartners, 28 kindergartners in a classroom. You have no para, you have nothing. Hey, let's get that third grade, we got third grade guarantee, but they got 30 kids in our school, 28 to 30 kids in each of those third grade classrooms. No, each of those classrooms should be split in half. So we should have 6 third grade teachers if we really are concerned about these children
passing that third grade guaranteed test. If we're really concerned, but I don't think we really are. I think
What
it's-
decides a para? Cause like Horace Mann, they have paras in their classrooms with the younger, students and students with disabilities and things of that nature, so what?
Mount Joe, some of the positions. can-
No,
Model school.
no kindergarten classroom has a paraprofessional unless they are paid for by some other entity.
They were using
Okay.
Title I money.
So, they were using Title I money, that was years ago. But currently, like, the East End community, they have them in theirs for Ruskin, but they're being paid out of a different pot, they're not
And
being
they're-
paid out of our
Horace Mann.
pot. Same thing probably with Horace Mann. But the other 20-some-odd schools don't, we don't have that luxury, so we don't have that.
So when we close, what we're gonna, because we're following the purse here, I want to stay that, on that money trail. I always believe you can follow the person, you'll follow.
Follow the money,
Follow the money.
and follow the money with the closing of the hospital, follow the money with the closing of all, follow the money, see what they're getting.
So you close
The
it.
gentrification
Okay,
thing that's going
yeah,
on
so I
downtown.
think realistically,
You're right.
I really think that it's a
That's
gentrification
right.
situation that's gonna start happening in the west side.
We think.
This is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful area. It is amazingly
But they want
gorgeous.
this community.
They want this. I'm telling you.
And they have done
You
that
think
in
it's
larger
gonna
cities.
come up?
Yes, I know,
Really?
I know it's gonna come
It's
out.
happening nationally.
Honey, have you been, okay, I live on Salem
Beautiful.
Avenue,
We got a
the house
whole
I
lot of
bought,
great.
$35,000.
So do,
$27,000.
so do we
They
value,
want this
Done
community.
before.
do we value
Good
the
water
community?
to the.
Come on
Come
now,
on.
let me tell you where we
Now,
live.
hold on, do we value the community is my
Exactly.
question.
Yeah.
So if,
If we
okay,
do, we'll
let's,
be
if
standing
we, cause we get emotional, black people.
Yeah.
And we forget what we're doing a lot because we get emotional. It's a bad thing. My pastors taught me not to be less emotional. No, real talk, real talk. No, real talk. So,
How many pastors are there in the room right now? I see two at
Right,
least.
Pastor.
3, 4.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we have, we have,
1, 2, 3, 4.
but you have, like, you know, I watch the community. I see a guy here that a lot of people, they can't stand when he talks. It's him. I love when he talks because he stirs the pot.
Yeah.
Less emotion. They're going to take money from us, right? They're taking money from us, and we can't be that stupid to stay emotional and not look at the money trail. So you closing schools, and then you're gonna sell for. We're gonna pay with levy money, and you're gonna sell penny on the dollar. So somebody's gonna make money right there. Then what's gonna happen is she talked about the overcrowding of the classroom. That's gonna take place, and now you're gonna push some kids into an already crowded situation, and you're gonna kill the esteem that was in the district in those buildings because you're gonna put those kids have become discombobulated. But the teacher's not gonna make more money, the administrator's not gonna make more money, and you're gonna get rid of some people, which means you got some more free money right there, freed up money. Where's that money going?
Yeah.
Is that money going towards more parents in those schools?
No, absolutely not.
Or is that money going, where's that money going? So we have to ask the money questions, like, okay, because we know it's a physical cost to operate these schools. And so when you close these schools, that budget that you get from the state has a certain amount of dollars attached to it. Where is that money going?
I've been trying to figure this out, and honestly, the only thing that makes any sense is this is our mayor's ploy to take over the schools, because she wants to be like Cleveland. She wants that power. She had her slate, she didn't get quite there. The person who got the most number of votes is the least qualified of any of the candidates, if you ask me, and he's shown it already. And he's running the district, and he's shutting people up at meetings where he has no right to, and speaking unilaterally. I am absolutely mystified at how they haven't resolved the issue of the former superintendent. I hope it goes to court because there will be depositions and we can find out what really happened in those executive sessions where they were discussing her evaluation. Because if you see the first evaluation and the final evaluation, they're totally different things.
Well, her administrative leave have already made her $24,000.
Oh, yeah, but that's only part of it.
So
I mean,
do you see the
let's-
second part
let's
of it, is that
also-
politically in the city of Dayton, I say things the way I see things, I
It's
read.
power, it's not money.
We, let's be clear, we control Dayton, politically.
Yeah, come on now.
let me tell you what goes on. So you can talk about all that you talk about in the divides of our community, but at the end of the day, when we turn out in voting polls, we control what happens in Dayton.
But we don't vote.
But we haven't been
Right,
voting.
so you wanna know why the mayor would want, and the commission would want the control of the inner city is because if you can put your people back into these seats, then you see how that works? So if we understood that though, how do you educate the people who don't understand that? See, we're back to that. We have to figure out as a group, I don't know what these other groups are talking about, but on the grassroots level, how do you educate a people on the grassroots level to raise the people up to understand? See, we've been studying Nehemiah Church, and this was what's happening. And so how do you raise the conscience of a people and the spirit of a people who has been stepped on for so many
And
years?
disenfranchised.
How do you do that? Because that's the problem.
I can tell you one thing, if she does take over the schools, it means a whole lot more patronage jobs for her hand out to her friends and family, which has been what the Democratic Party's been doing for years.
But, and if we would be honest, when we're looking at the majority in
Okay,
this
boy, you're in the
community, we
Democratic
have
seat, man.
leaders in this community.
I'm a
that-
Democrat, and I get ostracized at the Democratic Party. I say run for precinct
Well, and
captain,
that's-
every one of you, and kick the people out because half of them are assigned by Matt Heck's office. They all work in Matt Heck's office, and they assign them, and they vote themselves back in, and they vote their friends and family in, and they make decisions for you before there's even a primary. The first question they ask is, if we don't endorse you, we cannot run.
Can we get back on track?
Well,
So,
it comes down to
Well,
power.
I think part of the solution is about educating you about who your leaders are, because I would feel like we've been complacent, and I'm sorry, I'm calling names. We feel like because we've had Williams, and we feel like because we've had Mims right there at the helm, they've been there since when I was in high school, and look at where we are. So these are the people that
Sometimes you
we
need a
put our
change.
faith and we put our trust in.
Yeah.
They're in our congregations, they're with our pastors, and this is what's happening under their leadership.
Call them to the.
That's a solution. We need to get real with each other about our community.
Let's get real
We
with
just
them.
had the election.
Yeah, but now it's time to get real with them.
I mean, we had Daryl Fairchild, we had Shanice, they were going to be willing, they are the heartbeat right now. They are on the ground, and because of an allegiance that we have to certain people, they've been pushed to the background a couple times, and now here we are, and those people stand firm with Nan Whaley and what she's trying to do. So we gotta wake up and quit trying to act like everybody's for us just because they look like us or because they sit in the pews with us.
Right. True. Yeah.
We have to hold them accountable. We have to make them earn their votes.
Right.
Well, now that they're in, now we have to make them do what we want them to do.
Now, there's a third
He was
question.
talking about emotion.
Get to that question.
Emotion comes
Let's
with
get to the
passion,
third
passion
question.
and emotion.
Sometimes you guys.
I think you answered some of the third question, but I'm
That's what
gonna
happened.
ask it in this sort of way. What recommendations would you offer? Now, we've talked about the problems and talked about solutions, but now this is a direct, like,
Run the schools competently so people bring their kids back to the district. That's the number
You gotta
one
be
thing.
able to compete.
no.
Yeah,
Well,
They can't compete.
they can, there are schools that do okay.
We're looking for some recommendations
well,
so we can take
one
back.
of the
He's
recommendations.
still trying to make his
I'm
point.
I didn't ask.
That's right.
Poor guy.
I didn't ask what others should do, even though those are alternatives. I asked directly.
Recommendations from this group.
One of the recommendations would be, you gotta create a media campaign to show how idiotic it is to close these buildings. If you close these buildings.
Why don't you go the other route?
Let me
What she was
finish,
at, though?
let me finish, and you leave these buildings set for 2 years in a community that is the highest opioid city
You're asking
in the
for
country.
You're asking for trouble.
These buildings and all the levy money that went into building these buildings, they're gonna be vandalized.
Absolutely. But I want you to your study your media. I think your media is right, but I think that oftentimes in our community we like to put the spotlight on that kind of stuff. But there's some other things that's happening that's good.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm talking about leverage. I know about the leveraging aspect. In 1999, they were closing Colonel White, as with Patterson. But I took 648 students down Salem Avenue by myself. and got a reprieve. I got threatened calls from Dade Police Department. Sergeant Brown told me if I took them down and without permit, they were gonna get me for inciting a riot. The kids crossed over the sidewalk, blah, 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 blah. And Mr. Kirby called me. All these people called me, and I'm like, no, we're going down, we're walking. And they told Mr. Griff, you better not be in that walk or march, you're not gonna have a job. And so I remember all of this stuff, but I also remember that Thurgood Marshall got built because of that move. But we called, and you guys may know Virginia Burroughs. So Virginia, she called all Associated Press and all that, and we got that media attention that you were talking about. But the media attention wasn't turned on the negativity of what the district was doing. We was talking about what was going on inside the walls of Colonel White High School and how many kids was being saved with the arch that was in there before they lift Stivers up. Because Stivers was nothing when Colonel White was rolling, baby. I'm trying to tell you how this went down. And we wasn't handpicking kids. So when you go back to that, you got men in the building, you got arch in the building from Sheila Ramsey and all of those people that was in that building way before. Ben knows, he's right there, he knows I'm telling the truth. And Stivers was an afterthought. This building was handpicking kids. But the community inside the school was so strong that when we turned that light inside the school as to what was going on, you couldn't close that building. So you have to look at taking that media attention and turning that media attention inside the buildings that are performing and put the media attention there, not on the negativity, because they already think we crazy.
All right, we need to wrap this up. We're gonna need 2 people to speak for this group.
Mr. Malone.
You
Go for it, baby.
You mind?
You did good, yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna speak when we go out there, what we went over and what we discussed as a group. And the things we will be addressing is what issues, problems, questions do we have? And we discussed most of it. And what are the alternatives? And we discussed that. And what recommendations would you offer? And you guys have some great ideas, but we need to put this into action.
Yeah.
Can I make one also?
We need to put this into action.
Recommendation that we
As parents.
stop considering schools as a business. We need to get out of that mindset and get out of that model, because that model has.
The emphasis should be educating.
Yeah. So is that gonna, I don't know where.
It's
that
a service,
actually-
not a business.
It's a service, not a business.
And that's
So
an issue.
That guy out there, I can't remember, he's like, oh, these leaders, these business
Oh,
leaders,
that could be a recommendation.
we're all in the,
Yeah.
we're all in the,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh no, I know this is just wrong.
There were no
I
educators
know
on that
one
task
thing
force.
that we
Yeah.
had back in school, when
That's
I was
all.
in school.
That-
I think it's something that need to be put back in our
That
schools.
task force should be more diverse.
Our kids need to learn how to do things with their hands.
That's right.
Vocation.
That's right.
Vocation. We need some high-tech skill jobs, courses and classes in some of these schools, whereby these kids can learn some things, so when they get out, they're able to actually do something.
And we need trust.
Yes.
It's just
Right, they need to be
skill.
interested.
We have workshops, we
That-
have art, we have
that's
audio
really
channels.
When kids find an interest in something, that's what keeps them out of trouble.
Well, and if
Yes.
we, and when we're talking about the business community, if we're asking, if businesses want to come into our community, they have to invest in our kids. They have to help partner and bring STEM programs and technology and vocational, and they have to actually use from our pool of students when we're looking toward the workforce like they do in other communities with other partnerships. So you can't just come in and take out, you gotta come in and put back
Put
in.
somebody-
So that's what I was gonna say to his last point about community. As someone who was at Colonel White right before it switched over to Thurgood, I've seen my friends try to come back into the schools and be a part of it, and they don't get to because they don't have the names or experience. But we're part of the schools. Why don't we incentivize, bring back the alumni instead of saying like, oh no, you're too young for this, you don't know yet, or we already have a way about doing it. Like we have so much that we could add just by using the youth and people who know what it was like.
Baby, I've been working in this district since 2014, and they still won't hire me. I've been a substitute teacher. I worked in the web. I work for the web service in their HR. I'm adjacent all through here, and they will not hire me.
Keep going.
And I'm a Dade Public School alumni.
I appreciate y'all.
So was the superintendent candidate that they wouldn't take. So was the superintendent candidate that they wouldn't even let in. Mr. Lawrence?
They don't want anybody from our community.
They don't.
Two things,
They don't. That's a
So
problem.
we're going to the main room?
So that's a huge, that's a huge problem.
So with that, we're gonna go with our scribes.
Okay, so I'm with Group Red, or the Red Group. So my name is Georgetta Kelly. So some of the conversation that we had around this issue included the fact that we're receiving conflicting information right now. What is the real issue? Is the issue enrollment? Is the issue charter schools? Are we closing? Are we not closing? Are we reviewing? What are we doing right now? Also, we need to hear from our school board members. They need to be out in the community having this conversation with us in the community venues, not at the Board of Education office, but right here. They should be here speaking to this issue because it's that important for the Black community. All of these schools are closing in our area. It's not Stivers, it's not Belmont, it's not the schools on the East End, it's about our schools. And what about our schools on this end and our teachers? Are we taking care of our teachers? Do they have equal pay? Are we putting enough resources in the classrooms for them so they can educate our kids? Smaller class size, we need smaller class sizes, so why are we closing the buildings? Who will make the final decision? Will the Board of Education? Is this the superintendent's recommendation? Where is the superintendent? Why did they build the schools? Why did they build so many schools in the first place? When they came to us, they knew this. They knew enrollment would decrease, not increase. But they still built the schools with false hope for us in our community. So we're not buying that either. Should we turn our schools, if they do close the schools, into mock businesses? What does that look like? We got a whole bunch of empty buildings across our school district, across our community now, if they close the schools. So what are they gonna do with them? Are they gonna cut the grass? Are they gonna keep them neat? What about our property taxes and our property values? What about employment? The employment has left the city. We don't require anybody to live in the city anymore. So there's no tie to it. So what's going on? Used to have stronger Black leaders. Where are administrators in the school? Where are strong administrators that have an understanding of how to educate our kids? Discipline in the classroom. We need to join together like this as a community to deal with our discipline issues so we can educate our kids so they can be competitive in this future job market. Where does responsibility for the state of DPS lie? Is City Council? Is it City Council and Dayton Public Schools? Is it City Council, Dayton Public Schools, and businesses? Where, and the community? Where's the responsibility? How will school closures affect all quadrants of the city? Why is it not fair? Where's the equity? It's only on one side of town. Why is enrollment low at West Dayton schools? Do we have fewer children? Are the charter schools the problem? I mean, where's the issue? And do we need more specialized schools? And if so, what does that look like? This is not a quick conversation. We need people here, we need our leaders here, we need to pose those questions directly to them. Thank you.
Thank you. As we go through this exercise, because we're looking at the time, each presenter has 2 minutes. So hit your strong points because you're going to end up with some of the same points. So each presenter has 2 minutes, but before our other presenters go, I want our youth to come up because they're going to present their little 2 minutes. So come on up.
Hi, I'm Tanea Bailey.
Hi, I'm Destiny Raywell. Hi, I'm Dalen Jones. Hi, I'm Gerald Bellis.
I attend DECA, so do these two, and she attends Richard Allen. So when we were in there, we were talking about how would we feel if our school was going to close on Friday. Me personally, I said I was going to celebrate, but because of the gateways that my school does. But other schools, like we're not part of DPS like most of these other schools are, but I don't think they should be closing all these schools because that piles kids up at other schools. It makes classroom sizes huge and they won't have like the proper education that they need. And then when we were in there, we were picturing our perfect school, and they can tell you more about it.
Well, I would actually say Pizza Fridays. I thought about maybe changing the dress code so like you don't have to wear a uniform. I thought about like changing, like if you get to bring your phones to school and you don't have them to get taken, because you get to be like beep, 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 playing run.
At my school, I said no more gateways, because the gateways are like a set of requirements that we have to do, and if we don't do them, we can't graduate. So, yeah. Basically, it's 6 of them, and we have our whole high school career to get through them. I mean, we have standards, it's just these gateways, they pile work upon us more than we already get, and at DECA we have the heavy workload already. So I have to, for this gateway theory that I'm doing on Thursday, I had to write a book paper, I had to do a whole career interest project with like the PowerPoint to explain my career, with also a 3-page paper and the annotated book.
That's all good for you. Yeah, rigorous. We want you doing more.
We also take Sinclair classes at my, I wouldn't change that.
Stay right there.
Hi, I'm Samaya Chambers in 5th grade. World of Wonder.
And that's one of the schools they're talking about closing down, World of Wonder. Okay, thank you, y'all. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, next group.
Good job, guys.
Okay, I'm Ida Stevenson, and I'm not going to repeat the concerns that our first speaker said. One of our questions was how did they decide, and what were the budgetary concerns that they took into to decide what really is driving the decrease in the school system. We also want to know, in terms of the decision that was made, were they legal decisions? Have we really gone through the correct process? Another option, would it be the option to close non-compliant charter schools? Was these decisions based on economics? What is the forecast? Once you take all these schools out of the west side, what's the forecast for the children that remain on the west side? What is a projected 5-year educational plan? Was there any consideration for what's happening to the actual system? And has there been a financial audit that would correctly give us that information? Our recommendations and concerns were that we combine some of the schools in West Dayton, so instead of closing 9, let's close 4. Why are they going to the charter schools? What are the result of the potential closure? Is there duplicated services that we could maybe house in one school so that it could service more than one school? What will be done with the students that are affected by these closings? Will there be an administrative plan? Are we going to consider standards? Are we going to compare the schools in terms of, okay, this school is low in enrollment, but it might be doing better than the school over there? And what area of town, where do these decision makers live? Do they live in this area or do they live elsewhere? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, praise the Lord. Amen. How y'all doing? I asked y'all how y'all was doing. That's part of the problem is that we're not community. We don't even know how to respond to how you're doing. We've lost our way. How y'all doing? Amen. So you know that we don't want to be emotional while talking about this, because that's part of the strategy, is to get us discombobulated to think. You got to think about that. One of the things that we talked about was looking at what's really going on. And what's really going on is there's a purse attached to everything that's happening. And so what we have to really do is follow the purse. How many of y'all know that there was a levy passed for those schools to be built? Y'all remember that? And some of y'all voted for that levy, didn't you? And some of y'all still gonna be paying for them schools once they close them schools and sell them to the charter schools, aren't you? Y'all see the plan? So you got you go 4, you got 4 buildings, you get to sell 4 buildings, and you sell 4 buildings to some charter school industry, and you're gonna sell them penny on the dollars, and we're gonna be left paying for them. That is my point. That's what it's on there. That's my point. He said you gotta get to the point. That is the point. That's point number 1, is we have to pay attention to the money. There's a reason they want to close these schools, because when you think about the proficiency rate of the students that come out of these schools, then you have to also directly correlate that with the parents that sending the kids to the school. So when you send the parents to the school to help the kids and the parents not proficient, you got another problem. So we really got to look at why these schools are closing. We can't help what they're doing downtown, but we can help what we're doing over on the west side. And so what we have to look at is the same collective energy that you came through this door with. You got to have that same energy to go into these schools once we're done with this meeting. Did nobody clap? It's okay. So, men, in 1999, I took 647 students down Salem Avenue when they were going to close Colonel White High School. I took them down there. And anybody know that? They know what would happen. They threatened me, and they said, don't take those kids down there. Sergeant Brown from Dayton Police Department, he called me and said, if you take them down there without a parade permit, we're gonna arrest you. I remember that. We got a reprieve, they got Thurgood Marshall built, but when I looked at the following year, Gary Griffith was faced with 79 kids from Patterson High School into his building and 600 freshmen, incoming freshmen. We had 29 men in the building. There were 29 men in the building. I'm saying something here. These school buildings are dysfunctional because of the way the school system has set the building up. There are no men in these buildings. So if they're not going to put the men in the building, then we have to put the men in the building to correct the problem. Ain't no academic achievement without men in buildings when all the boys running around raising all the hell in the schools. Okay, my time up. Okay. Come on down.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Fred Cox, and I'm a proud Dayton Public School graduate. I am speaking on behalf of the Orange team. If you could just raise your hand, I just want to recognize everybody who contributed. Thank you all so much. So we have 3 very quick points. First off, as it pertains to Dayton Public Schools closing and the response or the rationale being low enrollment, well, these enrollment trends have been a decade long, right? So this is not a new ordeal, and we elect school board members in order to have the foresight to figure out where we're trending in order for them to make a decision that's in the best interest of our community. And that's obvious, something that did not happen. We also downsized our high schools for the same reason of having lower enrollment. And so if we see that we are closing schools now, we want to know how those school closings now will impact our continuing decrease in enrollment. We don't want to close schools now and in 5 years close more schools because we never handled the root issue. We just simply close schools. Second would just be divestment trends, right? So we see that this is obviously targeted within West Dayton, and there has been constant divestment in West Dayton for 40 years plus, right? And so this is absolutely no shocker that there would be some low enrollment and that the population of West Dayton would decrease because there's no opportunity. So in 2015, obviously, the opportunity maps came out and they showed that West Dayton had zero opportunity as it pertains to health, education, food, and things as such. So it's no shocker that there would be a population decrease and therefore there would be a student decrease also. And then lastly would just be systematic impact, right? So if there is systematic divestment of West Dayton and I move out of West Dayton and it's easier for my children to attend a school where I work, then I'm going to send my children to that school closer to my job, which is going to be more convenient for me. And so our larger three trends or three themes that came out was just that these enrollment trends are not new, that the divestment in West Dayton is not new, as well as the systematic issues that impact not only our economics. So this is not a siloed issue. If we simply talk about the school closing and we do not equate this issue with the closing of Salem, with the closing of Kroger and Gettysburg, with the Audi closing, then we will be doing this all wrong. So I hope that we don't deal with this in silos. Thank you.
All right, Brother Fred, NAACP here. All right, next group.
Hello everyone, my name is Jamaica Garrison. I am a proud product of Dayton Public Schools, from Jane Addams to Stivers Middle Schools to the Paul Lawrence Dunbar. I say the Paul Lawrence Dunbar, okay? And then Wright State University. Okay, so the number one thing that we came out with this situation is this. We stopped taking care of our students a long time ago. That's the number one issue. Because I remember when we were in school, we had home ec, we learned how to budget, we learned how to sew, we had counselors, we had nurses, we had a counselor for every grade, matter of fact. And so we stopped caring for the students and started caring for teaching to a test. That's the problem. So what issues did our group, the black group, raise your hands, contributors, thank you all for your hard work and dedication to this. Some of the questions that came out, will closing the schools allow us to pay teachers more money? Why has this been addressed so late? When did we start to see the decline? Why did we build new schools? Where did we go wrong with our projections? We really should have known how many schools we needed. I mean that's just simple analytics. Simple analytics. Who is going to pay for transportation to other schools when we know by the demographics of City of Dayton residents, transportation is one of the number one issues. So how you gonna get them to the east side? Are you paying for gas? Are you providing cars for the parents to get them there who don't have transportation? Truancy and attendance will suffer. This is an issue. Truancy and attendance will be worse. It will suffer. How many students are being bused from the west side to the east side currently? Why is the cost student ratio, why is the cost per student in DPS so high? How do we lower it? And then alternatives and recommendations. So according to the statistics, there are 5 classrooms in these 9 schools that are empty. So what we're saying is, why don't we put the support services back in the schools to utilize the empty space and offer healthcare services? We had nurses, we had clinics, we had daycare at Paul Lawrence Dunbar. We didn't have truancy issues with single mothers. They picked their children up after school and went on about their business and then on to college. And then on to college. Hello, they were in my class. You feel me? Wood shop, drafting, all that. I took drafting. I'm with you, computer-based programming. We sure did. And then, why don't we combine the schools and use the empty ones for community centers? That's one of the declines and where we went wrong when we closed all these community centers. Westwood, Princeton, all of them. We had something to do every day after school and on the weekend. Did we not? Did we not? Let me finish real quick. Small business office space for startup and entrepreneurship in the empty spaces. And last but not least, why don't we right-size the student-to-teacher ratio? Hello, we don't need to close the schools, right-size the classrooms. We didn't have 20-some people in our classrooms when I was in school. We didn't have 25 students in one classroom. So why don't we right-size the classroom? So let's get it, y'all, let's get it.
All right.
How's everybody doing? I'm Jeff Carter. I have to give you my perspective as an outsider because I'm not from Dayton. I'm not even from Ohio. I'm from Indiana. And our group was sort of put together sort of at the last minute of our goals and our concerns are going to be tough to follow some of the things that you just heard. But we had some really good, hot and heavy conversations about what's going on. One of the big concerns was this enrollment target versus the occupancy requirement. We need to, I think everyone needs to know that. We'd like to know who or what are our numbers, what are we looking for? Is there anything we can do to help influence that, to send it in an upward trend? There just seems to be a lack of communication between the community and the elected officials and our school board members. How do we improve that? You know, we thought about things, a lot of things start in the home, they start domestically. Some of the ideas we came up with, maybe there's classes, maybe we have counseling for families so we can see how's the best way we can get involved in our kids' lives. How's the best way to contact people that are making a lot of these decisions? It's not just one thing, you know, none of these things happened overnight. You know, I'm not from here, but I'm from Richmond, Indiana, which is on the border of Indiana and Ohio. And I remember visiting this area as a kid and seeing certain things, certain infrastructure, certain structures that were prominent in the 90s and late 80s. And now I come back in the 2000s and I see the crumbling infrastructure, just things that's falling into disrepair. And we see places like GM and NCR and all these things that have left. And it should be no concern, it should be no wonder why so many opportunities have left. You know, where's the focus at? We're concerned about gentrification. If you go anywhere in urban America, if you go to Chicago, if you go to Indianapolis, I got a lot of family over there, these same issues are prevalent everywhere, you know. The decisions we make today are going to affect our children's children. We're concerned about large class sizes. So for instance, when some of these charter schools that are closing down, eventually these kids are going to have to go somewhere. How's that going to affect the current population, current occupancy? You know, it's going to increase most likely, right? So what's that? Is that going to put a strain on the teachers? Is that going to put a strain on the students that are there? Cause any unnecessary tension? You know, these are things that we need to ask ourselves, and we eventually need to be asking our elected officials that have the power to make these decisions. And then going back to after these kids get out of these schools, we're thinking about opportunities. So what about recruitment? What about these businesses that are coming into the west side of Dayton? What type of engagement do they have with our students in terms of recruiting them so we know they're training the workforce of tomorrow? Okay. Well, that is all I have for you, but just some things to ponder. Thank you.
My name is Clayton Lucky. I served 10 years on the Dayton School Board. The number one issue why students are leaving Dayton Public School is safety. Let's put everything else, it doesn't matter the academics, because they go to charter schools, the academics are lower than the Dayton Public School. Number one is safety. The other thing they talked about is parent participation. They talked about how to get parents more involved. They talked about preschool promise. Preschool promise was to put preschoolers back into Dayton Public Schools, not into Montgomery County. Most of the schools that we have empty now, 2 of those rooms are pre-K. So don't say the whole building is empty. They talked about charter schools. When those kids come back, our kids come back, they need places to go. We have 600 kids a year that average to try out for Stivers School for the Arts. Why don't we have an East Side School for the Arts and a West Side School for the Arts? Reason we're into this point with charter school, the business community came to the Board of Education when I was on the board and said we want to open 4 charter schools. If you guys go along with that, we'll squash every other charter schools coming to Dayton. We gave the vote to the teachers union, says we need you to do schools within inside of the school and bring them in. Well, the teachers union voted it down. So that's when we had the 2 Edison schools. One of those Edison schools at the West Area Wide, guess what? It's closed down. The other school that the business community still runs, if they close that down and backfill those individual kids into the district, we won't be closing these schools down. We're talking less than 600 kids to backfill the schools back in the Dayton Public Schools. It's nothing about numbers. Why are we not recruiting? Why are we so much worried about the test scores when we should be worried about how do we keep our kids in school? When I was on the board, we graduated 1,600 on average of parents for the GED. I looked for the last 3 years, 100, 200. You know why our GED grades were so high for parents? Because to have your kid in all-day preschool, you have to have your GED. If you didn't have your GED, you had to get it, or your child cannot be in preschool. It was so you can't go home and teach your child to read if you don't know how to read yourself. And the other thing that we need to put the pressure, I said this, put the pressure back on the business community. You put us into this, it's time for you to get us out of it. So those 16-member individuals, you need to get us out of this. Okay, thank you.
I'm representing the yellow group, and I'm going to be brief because most of what we talked about has already been talked about, and there's no need in reinventing the wheel. We did talk about recruiting teachers and how that is a necessity, and the board needs to give us accurate information about what they're really doing when they're recruiting teachers. Male teachers especially. And actually, we talked about black male teachers because we don't have enough of them. And just keeping it real, administrative policies are running black male teachers away from Dayton Public Schools as fast as they can come in. Oh, yes, and one of the things that has not been mentioned and needs to be mentioned is the lack of effective teachers who are real instructional leaders, and we really are sorely lacking in that. Okay, yes, there was another issue. And yes, and the last thing is board policies that are actually causing parents to take their children out of Dayton Public Schools. So we need to address the administrators and the board to develop policies that will make it safe for kids in school, so every parent will feel good about sending their kid to Dayton Public Schools.
Thank you, Brother Murray Tenson. Everybody should have received a survey. Okay, if you did not receive a survey, see one of our security detail. Just raise your hand so they can get you a survey. Okay, so we got about 1, 2, I see 3 people. Okay, so for all of you who received the survey, please make certain that you see our education chair and our education committee back in the back to the right to leave your survey on the table. That's vitally important that you leave your survey on the table. There is also a DPS fact sheet. So this gives some of their statistics on why they are in the process of doing what they said they want to do. Okay, so if you do not have that, then we have extras in the back for you on that as well. The information that we collected this evening, because of you, because of you, because of you, give yourselves a because of you. This information, the results of the citizens' questions and concerns is going to be on our website. So everything that we collected here tonight from you as citizens is going to be posted at naacpdayton.org. naacpdayton.org. My education chair told me that will be done by month's end. So by January 31st, this information that we collected this evening, the summary, will be posted on our website by January 31st. Okay? So you'll be able to see the summary. From that summary, we will take that summary back to our executive committee. And we're going to digest some of that information. And we're going to reach out to our faith leaders as we do that. Okay? And then after that, once we have identified what we feel is something that's going to be good for the entire community, then we will talk about that at a later time. But the first step, the next steps right now is the information that that the community put together this evening will be on our website. Okay? So if you, yes ma'am, and then yes ma'am. Yes ma'am. Say it again. You want the survey? And they are going to hear the information.
And they need to do it not just, I don't know, in this forum. They need to do it publicly. They need to do it over the news. They need to do it over their website.
Okay. All right. So the first thing that's going to take place, just to reemphasize, is that the information that you as a community presented this evening, we'll have that done by the end of this month, and that will be on our website. So you'll be able to digest what you as a community put together. The surveys that you all have inside of your hands that you're going to leave, and I'm assuming there's questions on there that you all have to answer, we will get that information done as well. That may not be done by the end of this month, because our first priority is to make certain that the information that you all did this evening is on our website. We will be taking this information at a later date to the DPS. So so your concern is well taken. This forum tonight was to get your input, and I think I mentioned that at the beginning of the meeting, was to get your input that we can, deliver to DPS. I said that at the beginning of the meeting. Okay,
Hello everyone. We have a lot of great organizations in the city of Dayton who are doing the work in conjunction with citizens such as yourself. Our organization, Neighborhoods Over Politics, is a nonprofit that started with 3 young ladies, myself, Shanice Turner Sloss, and Joelle Thomas Jones, because we were tired of how our neighborhoods look. Okay, we grew up, born and raised in the city of Dayton, and we still live here, even though some of us can move out. So our mission is to collaborate with local government, residents, and community partners to improve the neighborhoods and housing conditions in the city of Dayton. We have a website, we have a Facebook page. Our meeting is Wednesday at Central State West on Germantown from 6 to 7:30. And it's time to get to work, y'all. We need to roll up our sleeves and get to work. We have a beautification project on Broadway and 2nd Street the old gas station, we planted flowers, because guess what? We care about our neighborhood. We care about when we drive home, we see something beautiful. So we're all about, exactly, when you go to our website, you'll see the statistics from the opportunity map that was done in 2015, which is what we established our organization on the data, on the information, because we are lacking opportunity in all the areas that Fred mentioned, and it's time out for that. We gotta take our city back, y'all. We need y'all help. We can't do it by ourselves. We work, we're married, we got children, but we on the ground for our community. We on the ground for our neighborhoods, and we need everybody in here to get involved and get help. I have cards you can get from me when this is over. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamika. I have a question back here, and then I'm coming to you next. Yes, sir.
All I want to say is, I find it amazing that before this school board was even seated, they had put people on a task force that was going to meet in private in violation of the sunshine laws of the state of Ohio. You have to be vigilant. They still are talking about having meetings where they are not in public, where they're touring the buildings. What are they hiding? And it is up to you, every one of you, to say this is unacceptable. We do the public's business in public in Ohio. And when they say, oh no, you have to leave, you say, oh no, I don't. You have to open up the doors and have the meeting in public. There is no private anything when it comes to making decisions of this type. And this school board, again, seems to think it's okay, and it is not.
I want to go, it was a lady that, right here, right, yes, ma'am.
We are all meeting here tonight with y'all. We care, we all are very concerned, but the thing is to stay vigilant and diligent in your actions.
Excuse me, ma'am.
To be diligent in your action and don't give up, because the wheels of justice, they grind very slowly, and it's a lot of politics and a lot that has to be done, and a lot of times you can lose faith and want to give up, but the thing is to remain diligent and stay committed to what we're doing, because if you give up the fight, there's no one to fight for us.
Okay, please write this date down. Get back to the lady's question right here regarding being able to speak to the board. February the 20th, there is a board meeting. February the 20th, there is a Dayton School Board meeting. That you as a citizen have the right to go and express your concerns. So that's the date, February 20th at 6 p.m. If you as a citizen,
5 o'clock.
5 p.m. I'm sorry, 5 p.m. I was given 6 p.m. 5 p.m. That's right. Okay, so February 20th, 5 p.m. Okay, so that's your opportunity to go and speak to the board directly yourself as a concerned citizen. Yes, I'm gonna go here because she has had her hand up.
My name is Cameron Walker, and I'm with Racial Justice Now, and we're also having our monthly parent meeting on Thursday, this Thursday at 6 p.m. at Body of Christ Deliverance Church at the corner of Catawba and Hillcrest. Again, we are asking you, we specifically have been trying to work with the issues within Dayton Public Schools. We have been trying to organize our parents and organize our parents' voice. So last week, there weren't any parents at the podium at the Dayton at the board meeting to express the concerns of these school closings, what they need to look like, and the board needs to hear from us. We are the ones that, this is our community, as spoken before. We pay these levies to make sure that our kids are getting the services and the resources that we need. They have to be held accountable. We have a new board, and we are hoping that this new board, along with the board that we already have, are willing to work on the behalf of our kids, but if we don't show up, they won't. And what we want to do is continue to strategize at our Racial Justice Now meetings, really get close and put the pen to the paper and put our issues out there, our strategies out there to, again, work collaboratively
with the Board of Education. We are completely against the closing of our schools because it is racial disparity, it is systemic, and what it's doing is it's continuing to push our kids out and leaving them nowhere to go. So we really want to be able to engage with the community, have you guys learn more about us, but also how we can work together to show up for parents who can't be there, right? We got parents who are working 12, 14-hour days and they can't show up. How can we be a voice for them as a community to show up for our kids? So again, we have a meeting this Thursday, the 25th, 6 p.m., the Body of Deliverance Temple of Christ.
You know, one other thing before we close out is that we need to be very mindful. There's there's what you call a Malcolm and Martin effect. The Malcolm and Martin effect works when it's time. But the Malcolm and Martin effect can only be effective if, in fact, we do it together. We can't do it together if we're putting one person down to build yourself up. So as long as we continue to do the Malcolm Martin effect, what? Together, then it will work. So that's what I would like for you all to go home and sleep on. The Malcolm and Martin effect, but working together. And when we do that, we'll see justice. And you know, it's just one of them deals. Whereas when people have an opportunity to make, hold on for a second. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You're talking about Malcolm Martin effect.
Yes.
I'm talking my money.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even have children in Dayton Public Schools.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm talking about the disparity this young lady was talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm talking class action lawsuits.
Okay.
I'm talking recall the school board.
Okay.
I'm talking a lawyer. I'm talking EEOC.
All right, thank you.
I'm talking my pastor's sermon last Sunday.
Yes, ma'am.
We are the church.
Yes, ma'am.
Of Jesus Christ.
Yes, ma'am.
It's just us.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm tired of being walked over.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm tired of talking. I want to know where
We're right here organizing this meeting, and thank you very much. And Pastor Cunningham, can you lead us out of here with prayer this evening? We're not going to have somebody to come in and disrespect our meeting, and that's exactly what we're talking about. So Pastor Cunningham, can you lead us in a closing word of prayer?
If we can stand, so we can pray.
Excuse me. My name is Cato Mayberry. I got just a couple things I want to say real quick. Now, how many people in here are actually from the West Side and live on the West Side, work on the West Side? Okay. Now, we had a problem earlier where we couldn't get people to just say hello, you know, and speak back. But one of the major issues is, and I just want to give you a real life scenario. How many of you people here cared about your job when you worked at a fast food spot? Because most of us, our first job was a fast food spot, right? Okay, now how many felt like the manager cared if they came to work the next day? That's the same way y'all treating the teachers and the people that are going to be of value. And that's why I said we need to bring the value of the teachers back as well. You know, bringing the kids, they're an asset, but the teachers are also an asset, and we're ignoring the facts that if we continue to do fast food work, we're going to continue to have teachers that don't care. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? Y'all going to continue to have teachers that don't care. They're just here for a check. They don't care about the students, so y'all need to treat the teachers as if they're the asset that they are. And a lot of people are ignoring that. And we got a teacher here, Ida Stevenson. We got a lot of educators in here, but are you going to do more than clap? Are you going to do more than preach? Or are you going to be a bunch of marchers? Because we always march, and I don't see my outcome. I see nothing changing. So I'm not one of the nice guys who can, tell you it is what it ain't, but it's not right. The way we're doing our system, we are bound to fail. There's nobody really pushing. After the meeting, what are you gonna do? That should be the next question. After the meeting, what are y'all gonna do? Because the first thing they did was put us all on the time limit. We got 2 minutes. So know that y'all got more than that when y'all go home.
Thank you, sir. We have a board member who would like to say something before Pastor Finney closes us out.
Good evening. I'm Jocelyn Rhynard. I'll be really quick. I'm one of the new board members that was elected this last fall. I am not here as in an official capacity. I am here as a community member, and I am here to listen to all of you. And I want you to know that tonight I heard everything you said. And I will make sure that the community's concerns are heard at the board meetings. And I want you to know how grateful I am to see this room of amazing people who want nothing more than to see their city and their children succeed. And I will do everything I can to make sure that the concerns of the community are heard and that we make wise choices. Thank you again for coming out.
If we can grab hands with the person next to us, we know the emotions are high, rightfully so. We have many different methodologies or thoughts, but we have one mission: to make this community the best community this world has ever seen. And it's going to take all of us working together. Regardless of your methodologies, we can work together for one mission. Let's pray. Father God, in the name of Jesus, we love you. We thank you tonight. We thank you, first of all, for this opportunity for us to come and to share and express our concerns. God, we thank you for the staff at the NAACP and those who are working with this forum to put all of our thoughts together collaboratively and collectively so that we can take these efforts and be able to move beyond just meeting and talking about it, but going into the streets, talking to our children, talking to our principals, going to the school board meetings, doing whatever is necessary so that we can have the mission to bring the city of Dayton back to where it used to be and even better than it ever was before. So God, I pray that you would just touch each and every heart and every mind, and even though we may disagree, God, let us move to the place where we can work together and be able to speak to one another, yes, passionately, but also with love in our hearts, so that we can make the mission complete. We are all on a team. And so, God, we thank you for this team. We have different roles, we have different responsibilities. And God, we want to make sure, we ask that you would help us do our little part of the team. So God, we pray most importantly that you would anoint this team, anoint this city. Bring your spirit, let your spirit be manifest all over this place. Spirit of the living God, fall fresh on us. Break us, melt us, mold us, and then fill us as we go into our neighborhoods, as we go into our school board meetings. God, we pray right now that you give us the strength, we pray that you give us the courage, and we pray that you give us the love to make this mission happen. God, your word says how beautiful it is for brothers and sisters to dwell together in unity. And so God, we stand unified today. We stand in unison today so that we can make this city great for the kingdom of God. So God, we pray that you dismiss us from this place, but God, we know you will never dismiss us from your presence. And God, I pray this prayer upon everybody. May the Lord God bless and keep all of us. May the Lord God make his face to shine upon us and give us peace. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon us and bring us peace. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.